you. Mike.
Yeah, I tried to really narrow the focus of my amendment as much as possible to address all of the issues that were raised, and I'm not surprised to hear that 68% of the folks who presented written testimony and a majority of folks who gave oral testimony provided many good reasons for us to interact with the Marine Board recommending establishment of an expansion of the float and wake zone. And so my amendment goes to, on page 359, in River Recreation Objective 11, to add one ongoing action, which is the City of Portland needs to address river recreation safety and ecological health of the river, will petition the Oregon State Marine Board to establish a slow, no-wake zone between the Hawthorne and Selwood bridges and at Powers Marine Park and Elk Rock Island. And we've heard a lot of testimony, read a lot of testimony that, in my opinion, would justify expanding beyond that, at least to Waverly, and perhaps I know some people have argued all the way to Elk Rock Island. But I think Hawthorne Bridge, the Selwood Bridge, really focuses in on the area of the greatest conflict. There's no question about that. And I'll just say I've been leading kayak trips for almost 40 years in that area, and it's only gotten worse particularly more recently with the wave-inducing designs on boats. And I just wanted to also suggest there are a number of other issues that I think we could address in our transmittal letter to City Council. And so, for example, in addition to the new action item establishing an expanded slow no-wake zone, the Commission urges the city to continue to monitor shallow water habitat and cold water refugia in partnership with USGS and DEQ to evaluate if expansion or additional site-specific slow no-wake zones are needed to protect endangered salmon species and their habitats, including the potential for a pass-through zone south to the city limits at Elk Rock Island. We urge the city to work with the State Marine Board, as has been suggested, to increase signage on the upstream and downstream ends of the no-wake zone so the public is more aware where the zones are. And it will be important for the city to work with the State Marine Board and Multnomah County Sheriff to create and distribute voter education to reduce conflicts among river recreationists and ensure compliance with the regulations. I'm not going to read through all of the 8 rationales that I outlined to my colleagues on the Commission. I will say, however, that to address Oriana's point and others, the expansion of a slow no-wake zone addresses equitable access to the river in that an increased sense of safety will encourage more people, including people of limited means, to recreate in non-polluting, low-carbon modes, including kayaking, canoeing, stand-up paddling, and to Willie's comment, swimming in the Willamette River. There are many other rationales that I think we all picked up on in the written testimony and the oral testimony to justify expanding the no-wake zone. And by the way, the no-wake zone currently does not cover the entire Holgate Channel. This will include the Holgate Channel, of course. So that is my proposed amendment.
Thank you, Michael. So to peel off the specific amendment out of that, although much of this would go into a letter if we approve it, is that the City of Portland would address a new item R11D, that the City of Portland would address river recreational safety and ecological health of the river, will petition the Oregon State Marine Board to establish a slow no-wake zone between the Hawthorne and Selwood bridges and at Powers Marine Park and Elk Rock Island.
Correct.
Second for that.
I'll second it.
I heard that from Katie Larcell. Thank you, Katie.
Yes.
So it's been moved and seconded. Is there a discussion of this amendment? I will chime in that I'm supportive of this amendment, and I saw some commentary in the written testimony about the importance of signage. So although it's not in the amendment here, I think that that's so people know when they're entering or exiting a no-wake zone. And for those who are boaters with engines, they know where they can travel and they're outside the zone. Any other thoughts? All right, then we are So I have one from Ben. Please jump in, Ben.
Just a question, perhaps for Mike, but it might be more of a technical question for the Marine Board for them to decide. But there were a couple of comments that kind of struck my interest that refer to these new high energy wave generator 3 to 4 or more foot high waves. Is that what we're really talking about? Obviously, you know, boats that go beyond the speed limit and don't respect the rules are also the problem. But I'm just wondering if these wakeboard devices on boats that are causing the problem, or really if it's a broader issue.
It's a much broader issue. They are. It is a huge problem, and they need to be addressed. But I'll just give you one example. When we worked with the Marine Board to establish a slow no wake zone on the Holgate Channel, and this is not, there are many instances like this, but a couple folks testified who were in an outrigger canoe, and it was not one of these craft that accentuates the waves. It was simply a motorboat towing a water skier, and they weren't paying attention, and they literally sliced through their boat, through the outrigger canoe. So that's not a function of these new design boats. It's a function of people acting inappropriately around Ross Island. So it's a huge safety issue, in addition to the environmental impacts that these larger wakes are creating with the new design boats.
So you're essentially saying that speed is really more of the factor, or one of the
Correct. It's a combination, actually, of speed. It used to be that the slow no wake zone was related to a 5-mile-an-hour speed. Well, once the new boats came online that could go slower than that and still create 3 to 6 foot waves, the Marine Board changed the rule to address only wake, period. But speed is certainly also a big part of it. In fact, I wish we were talking about establishing a speed limit on the Willamette, frankly, particularly in downtown.
And I have heard there's an exception for police or fire boats. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So I'm going to ask you if you guys will indulge us to extend our meeting time to like 7:15 or 7:20. If someone's going to need to leave, please let me know. But I'm hoping that we can complete this. I'm glad that we took the time to have this additional testimony and topic, but I'd also like to have a chance to move this to City Council. And Oriana, want to jump in?
Yeah, I don't know if this is exactly a friendly amendment, if it may be accepted, having not seen the language, but I think at least for a letter, I would like to recommend or request that in addition to kind of talking about the ecological impacts, that we also have some consultation with Laura John or with AT&I, or just some consultation with tribes, acknowledging that especially on the salmon issue, the restoration and maintenance of salmon populations is a resource issue for tribal governments and for indigenous communities. And I just want to make sure that that's a lens. I'm very much in support of what Mike is putting forward today, but I want to make sure that that lens is brought in. And then just put a slight asterisk, which, going back to the conversation around houselessness, make sure that we're being conscious of the folks who are living on boats, and that whatever is being kind of enacted here, which seems more on the recreation side, doesn't have some unintended consequences or displaces folks who are utilizing boats as homes in this arena. So just want to name those two issues. Eli or Mike, you could take it how you will in terms of how that may be incorporated or whether that feedback is received.
Well, I consider that a very friendly amendment, and I would like to see it in the transmittal letter.
That sounds appropriate to me.
Particularly.
Any more comments on the amendment in front of us? Then Julie, can you please call a vote on that?
Okay, Backrack.
Yes, I have clarification. Are we we're not voting on
This is just on the amendment.
not on the cover letter ideas.
Just the amendment, and we've shared some ideas for the transmittal letter.
Yeah, aye.
Okay, Portalazzo.
Yes.
Houck.
Yes.
Marcel.
Yes.
Magnera.
Yes.
Rouse.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Feedback.
Yes. And that motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for coming to speak with us this evening.